Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to Monetary Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel, and as you can see on the screen in front of you right now, today's installment is going to be taking a closer look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Night Viper. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs about the figure, so that if you've been thinking about picking one up for yourself, you'll have good, thorough information to know whether this is the figure for you. We'll get things started by jumping back in time and visiting past Chris, who's going to take a look at the packaging on the day it arrived on my doorstep, and then we'll move into the figure itself and talk about the aesthetic and the visual experience of the Night Viper, then move on to the articulation and posability and have a look at how he moves, then take a look at the accessories and added value, and finish up dropping him next to a couple of other G.I. Joe Classified Series figures to see how he compares. And with all that said and done, you should hopefully have plenty of information to know whether this is worth cracking your wallet or purse open for. So let's get into it, and let's go back in time and take a look at the packaging on the day it arrived at my house. Here we go. All right, folks, well, here's Night Viper in packaging, and I'm going to be a broken record once again because it's the standard G.I. Joe Classified Series packaging. Logo, name, window with the figure, and then the Cobra logo because he's a Cobra character. All four of my pre-orders from this wave came at the same time, and I'm recording the packaging all at the same time because I want to crack them open. So for you guys who's watched review after review, it probably feels a bit more broken up, but for me, I'm just kind of following the script, which has made me realise that these packaging bits are a little bit repetitive. So any suggestions on a postcard, please, folks, or in the comments down below. What can I do to jazz these up? Anyway, let's have a look at the back. And, there's the back. 187, digital render, breakout window, legal bollocks and malarkey. And then the file card. Let's take a look at the file card information, shall we, folks? So we got like a little target here because he's got that big like telescope thing over his eye. And he uses it to see things and go pew pew and stuff. This is an interesting one. So Night Vipers, all of them, every single Night Viper in the Cobra Armed Forces, it has a problem with speeding. And that's actually a traffic cop, speed gun, catching them. They sit outside Springfield waiting for them to, write some tickets and make some overtime. This is a little nighttime scene here. You might think that's because they're called Night Vipers and, they do night maneuvers and all that stuff. But that's not actually what that's in aid of. It's actually because Night Vipers are massive fans of the CBeebies bedtime story. And they like to, sit down, warm milk, blanket, check out the bedtime story, see what celebrities reading to the kids this week. And then finally, this eyeball with a line through it, which I'm desperately running out of. Oh, God. I mean, it's because he can't see things. Or you can't see him. I don't know, something. Oh, God, I've run out of Steve doing 4 of these back to back. Got the artwork on the side there. Again, it's all right. It looks very misproportioned. Look at that face mask there. Boo. And then we've got the side here that nobody really cares about. I'm not even filming it in focus. There we go. 187, repeat of all the stuff, QR code, blah, blah, blah. And there we go, folks. There is the Night Viper in packaging. If you're interested in that sort of stuff. But as you well know, I'm not interested in that stuff. And after this now being the 4th one I've done, I'm in such a rush to get them open and start playing. So I'm going to go away, get this bad boy cracked open, start posing him up, playing around with him, keep him around for a desk figure for a day or two, write down some review thoughts and come back to you with those review thoughts. So stick around. Future Chris is going to be with you in 3, 2, 1. Okay then, folks, well, let's talk about the aesthetic qualities, the visual experience of the Night Viper. And as always, I'll start by giving you a nice static head-to-toe look of the figure so you can kind of eyeball it up in its entirety. This is straight out of the packet, no accessories added, just the core figure itself. And this is a great example, I think, of one of those figs where they've taken inspiration, they've clearly drawn inspiration from the original vintage figure. The colour scheme is there, the black and the green and the yellow embellishments, for example, and the kind of general design features like the way the armour plating on the legs looks, but they've taken those steps to modernize it and add a little bit of a classified twist. So it's the direct one-to-one replication of the vintage figure. It's not wildly different. And like I say, the core features and the visual identifying features are there, but it's got a little bit of classified life of its own. Getting in a little bit closer, here's the unhelmeted head, and you can see it's this kind of balaclava setup that we've got here. It's got some nice sculpting on the balaclava just to bring it to life and give it some depth And then the eyes sculpted underneath, with the eyes and the eyebrows being seen through the eye hole cutaways on the balaclava, communicating a kind of very serious, very stern look, even with just that limited amount of real estate showing off the actual face. I'm glad they put the time and effort into, doing this. I suppose the main thing is, though, with a character like the Night Viper, not dissimilar to some other Vipers we've had down the line, like, the Frag Viper, for example, but you're rarely ever going to display him without his signature helmet on, which is, a part of the visual identity itself. Now, we'll have a look at him with the helmet on a little later on when I dig the accessories out and do a rundown of those. But it's a good head sculpt. The balaclava look is strong. We've seen this before in the line. They've got good pedigree in terms of doing a lot with a very little amount of face actually on display through things like face masks, ninja masks, balaclavas, etc., etc. I'm glad they put the effort in, but I'm very rarely going to be using the figure in this way. Then we've got the armor plating, so we've got it all up the legs, in line with that original character design, but then they've added these extra armor sections on the chest piece here. Got this kind of shiny sheen to it, which looks to be intentional, and it doesn't seem too plasticky. It looks like it's a polished piece of armor. These Night Vipers are very proud of their black armor plating, and this has all got these kind of sculpted details in that are following this sort of serpentine motif style and design that we generally see in Cobra Viper figures. There's lovely little details, decals, paint applications, sculpt details to give it some depth and some character. So some splashes of colour, things like this little, like a little red nightlight type thing. The yellow Cobra symbol decal there on the chest plate of the armour. Painted belt buckle. Love me a painted belt buckle, and that's in this like kind of nice brassy colour. Got the Night Viper symbol decal on the shoulder port there. Got some long bullets for his sniper rifle. Let me just get him in focus. And these are all painted, so it's not just single black sculpted plastic there. They've painted the bullet shapes top and bottom, and then we've got another decal on the shoulder piece here as well. Sculpted details like his bandolier piece there has got a kind of leathery effect on this padded section at the top of the shoulder. Sculpted details all the way around the pockets and such like. This is the same with the belt. You can see sculpted details on the pockets, sculpted details on the pistol holster. These things, I don't know what they are. What are they? Maybe flares, night flares perhaps. And then there's the sculpted details on this extra little knife sheath on the top there. This knife sheath and the actual boots here are a different tone of black to the armor, but I think again in the sculpt design, it's a bit more excusable because these are embellished features on top of the well polished, well kept Viper design armor. You see more of that sculpting detail here at the back, so they've continued the armor stuff in the top of the back and in the base of the back there, and then things like sculpted details, little pockets, and then this side is a good way to see some of the texture detail in there, like the way it's sort of bunching up. The trousers are bunching up under the straps and things, and bunching up around the elbows and these elbow pads that are on his sleeves. His physique is interesting to me. I recalled this out when I reviewed the digital render way back when he was first revealed. And at that time, he seemed a bit disproportionate, like he had wider shoulders and like really slimline legs that looked funny to me. But here in hand, actually, it's quite good. He's got this more kind of slender, more sleek physique, which is interesting. And the proportions do seem right. And I have to admit, sort of visually, out of this whole wave, I've picked up 4 out of the 5. I've not gone for the mole rat. And while I was super excited about Lifeline and Big Lob, and I would probably put Hit and Run and the Night Viper kind of secondary or even tertiary in terms of the wants, needs, desire list, now I've got him in hand. I have found myself reaching for the Night Viper, possibly a little bit more than any of the other 3. He's kind of won me over a little bit. And those concerns about the physique and the disproportionate vibe of him are not present. The colour scheme's good. I like the shade of green, and it works well. It's complemented well by the black armour pieces, and then the more kind of yellowy green embellishments around and about, with just that kind of little belt buckle in the centre, just to give it a little extra flash of colour to bring it to life and increase the shelf presence. I had wondered if in the kind of green and black colours, whether it was at risk of sort of fading into the shelf and not have so much shelf presence compared to other figures from the Cobra side of the Viper squad. But actually, he sits nicely in amongst the kind of eclectic and very colourful mix that you get from your rank and file Vipers and whatnot, if you were doing a selection of the Vipers and the Troopers. So aesthetically, yeah, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I really quite like this figure. I like the visual experience. I like the aesthetic ideas. It's coming across well, and I've enjoyed, the playing around with the figure, and it comes to life even more visually when you start posing it up and stuff. So very, very pleased. And concerns I had, as I said before, when it came to seeing the render, were misplaced. Those concerns have not come real in the 6-inch plastic form. Now I have it in hand, so very pleased. Okay, well, there's the aesthetic and visual experience. Let's now take a look at the articulation and posability. And just a quick note on articulation and posability, folks, it's standard G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation. Spoiler alert. So if you're already relatively familiar with that, and you've got no need to watch this section, I put timestamps in down below. You can jump forward to the chapter where I talk about the accessories and added value. However, if this is the first time you have ever watched a G.I. Joe Classified Series review, or you're interested to know whether there's any particular quirks with the figure, stick around and I'll run you through it, starting with the head. So up top here then, it's a ball at the base of the neck, ball in the base of the skull. The forward and back's not fantastic, it's a bit tight. I think it's got something to do with the way that neck shoots up deep into the head. But you do have the full 360, and there is a little bit of movement in there. It's not completely altogether restricted. Moving further down into the shoulders, you've got the butterfly joint, the peg, and the hinge. You can go full 360 all the way around like that, shuffle forward and back, and tee him out like so. Got the swivel there at the top of the bicep and tricep, pinless double elbow that'll get you up to there, and then pegged in hands, which can move at the wrist joint, and then we've got an up and down on the right hand, and a forward and back on the left hand. Into the torso, we've got the ab crunch hinge and the ball joint in the waist, pretty good forward, pretty good back, and then movement in the ball joint there. Drop down hinge at the hip and groin area, so your forward's about there. Russian ballet is out to about there. Swivel at the top of the thigh, which nicely sits with the sort of high thigh armour booty piece here. Pinless double knee, that'll get you up to there. Then there is a boot cut in the ankle. It's underneath this armour piece here. So just at the bottom there. And then the usual hinge and rocker for the feet. So thumbs up on articulation and posability. The Night Viper moves good up to the usual G.I. Joe Classified Series standard. And when I was playing around with him the other day, taking photos and posing them up and stuff, there was no limits to my imagination. As I said earlier, the only criticism really is that the neck, forward and back is a little bit tight. So if you're kind of ab crunching him forward and wanting to angle the head up, you can see there's not a great deal of movement. Okay, that's the accessories, the articulation and posability. Let's now take a look at the accessories and weigh up whether they're added value. And let's get started up top here with the Night Viper's helmet, which is a key contributing element to the visual identity of the figure. You can see that it's the main body of the helmet continues the that kind of shiny black that ties in well with the armor plating on the chest and the legs. Got some nice contours and interesting shape to it. Got a kind of BMX, professional BMXer look to it, doesn't it? Two different shades in the helmet as well. Got this kind of green stripe across the back here, and then the hinge section with the goggles on the front, which we'll have a gander at in a minute. But you can see there's some nice sculpting, little rivets and screws and stuff in there. Yeah, it's a nice little helmet. And then, of course, it's got this long telescopic night vision lens sticking out the front here. You can see that it's on a hinge at either side, so you can bring it up and have it resting across the top of the helmet there, so you can see the eyes underneath, or bring it down with these nice paint applications in the end with the silver lenses on the two eyes. It does come out pretty far. I did try and pull it off, because I seem to remember the original vintage figure, you were able to remove that, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Either that or I'm just being a bit too tentative or anxious, not wanting to pull hard enough maybe, but yeah, it's obviously a part of the look and design of the character, so ties in well, suitably goofy in the way that we love our Cobra Vipers to be. So yeah, the helmet, and it just really finishes off that kind of final look that you associate with the Night Viper. Then we have the Night Viper's sniper rifle, which is a little bit of a departure to the look of the original A Real American Hero sniper rifle. It's a new design specific for this figure, at least to my knowledge. And it's fine. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit misshapen. It's got this like weird curve up in the barrel. And, well, as I said before, I've not applied any heat to this figure, so I'm sure I can probably get that back to where I want it to be. But it's got a single piece of moulded plastic, got all the sculpted details in there, got the long sight and whatever this thing is underneath, a torch or something. Removable magazine. The channel for the magazine, or the clip, is a little bit shallow. I sometimes knock it out by accident. Got his shoulder strap for carrying it. One thing of note is that the rear butt is very, very gummy. And I don't know if you can see, but as I've been sort of manipulating the figure, let me zoom in a wee bit more. As I've been manipulating the figure into poses, holding the rifle, this butt, can you see the sort of stress marks there? It's potentially close to snapping off. It bends. And sometimes when I've taken a photo, I've realised that it's been sort of stretched out like that at a weird angle. It's got no rigidity to it, which is a bit of a shame. However, overall, nice, got its own unique character, own personality, and obviously, at this point, a unique weapon for the Night Vipers. Then we've got his handgun here. Once again, I think this is unique to the Night Viper. I don't think we've seen this before. I remember when the figure was revealed, I noticed folks talking about it giving off RoboCop vibes, which I can totally see. But again, single piece of moulded black plastic with sculpted details in to bring it to life and make it look like the handgun that it's supposed to be looking like. Got the port on the barrel there for your blast effects. Oh, just incidentally, so does the rifle. I didn't mention that. So it's fine. Yeah, good. Nice looking pistol. Interesting. Got a bit of a kind of science fiction-y vibe, which I like. And of course, there's on-figure storage for this with the holster that's on the thigh. Put that in there. Like so. Then the Night Viper's got a couple of blades, 2 different knives. We've got this kind of more stabby, daggery type one, and then a more cutty, slicey one with the sharp edge and the serrated edge on the other side. Again, nice sculpted details in these. Bring them to life along the blades and on the handles. They've got the uniformal handles as well, so they've got a kind of nice look that ties together. Particularly when they're in the sheath, this design ties in well with the sort of armor design of the figure, which is nice to see. Which is good. Obviously not painted blades, which is a bit of a disappointment. I'm always a bit happier when they've got the metallic silver painted blades on them to bring them to life a little bit, but it's fine. And both of these have got a sheath on the figure itself. There's one here on his bandolier across his chest, and there's one here fitted on the front of his shin. And finally, we've got the backpack here. Once again, another reinterpretation of the vintage look to a kind of more modern-y design. Again, big lump of single molded piece of plastic with the aerials across the top here, and then sculpted details in with dials and whatnot, and carry pouches and things. There's a little comfort padding across the back here, and then the peg to obviously fit into the peg hole at the back. Which is A-OK. Sheer black, which normally I'd complain about. I like a little splash of colour on the backpacks, but it sort of works for the Night Viper in a way that they would just have a sheer black backpack. But it might have been good just to do something with some of these dials and buttons at the top here, maybe just to give it a little bit of colour. But certainly the sculpting, texture and the depth of it all is very, very nice. So, yeah, the accessory selection is decent. Big thumbs up, but obviously a large focus on the loadout. It's all weaponry, bar the backpack and the helmet, which is fine. It kind of sits in that sort of central lane of a kind of just a solid concrete slab of G.I. Joe classified with weapons and a backpack, which is A-OK. It all works well, and as you can see, it's all storable on the figure itself. No need to fill up the bits box with this stuff. It's all there on the figure as you see it. So I'm generally happy. The only thing is that I'm possibly close to breaking the butt off my rifle, which is a bit of a shame. I will be exercising caution and applying a bit of heat to try and sort of bring that back into a straighter shape and maybe try and melt that joining point back together a little bit. But overall, it's fine. It's good. Would I have wanted more? Yes, of course I would have done. I always want more with the accessories, more world building stuff and what have you. What that could have been, I don't know. So the fact that I can't think of anything to add to the Night Viper probably speaks for itself. So yeah, I think I'm going to give it a thumbs up. A thumbs up. A bit more limited, but it works, and it all ties into the narrative, into the story that you might want to try and tell with your Night Viper. And of course, it gives you a variety, a wider world of possibility in terms of how you might want to pose it, and if you're a photographer, how you might want to take pictures and whatnot. So it's all good. All right then, well, there's the accessories and add-in value. Let's now take a look at the Night Viper next to a couple of other figures, shall we? Here's the Night Viper next to the Range Viper. Here they are next to the classic mainline Alley Viper. Clearly a very different philosophy around camouflage between these two. Here's the Night Viper next to the Frag Viper. And god damn it, guys, I keep going back to this one, you know. Keep going back to it. Something about it. Can't put my finger on it. And here's the Night Viper next to the mainline Baroness. All right then, folks, well, here's the Night Viper going around on the turntable so you can get a nice 360 view of the figure. And while you're having a look at that, I'll just offer up some final thoughts. And all I've really got for you is to say I was a bit skeptical about the Night Viper. It wasn't really, it wasn't a figure I owned as a child. I only discovered the DIC cartoons in more recent years. And so I wasn't hugely attached to them as a character. And then there was some bits about the render and the in-hand reveal that I was a bit like, I'm not so sure. But as I said before, now I've got him in hand, I've been reaching for this guy a lot. And he's been hanging around on my desk for well over a week now as my desk figure. And I just keep kind of going back to him. There's something about that green on the black and that sleek design and that sort of creepy, assassin-y kind of vibe that's got a little sort of slightly sci-fi-ish vibe about it. Speaks to me. It's working. So I'm into it. I'm into it very much so. And I've found some fun kind of posing and stuff that I've been doing to take pictures with it. So it's good. Yeah, it's solid, rock solid. And what more can you want? I don't know what else to say beyond that. So I've shared the more detailed thoughts as we've gone along, but I think I would recommend this figure for sure. I've had a lot of fun and I've been enjoying him a great deal. And on the shelf, on my little desk figure man-child play shelf behind me, I've been reaching for the Night Viper probably more than Hit and Run and Lifeline for sure. Although I have been playing with Big Lob a lot because, you know, it's Big Lob. So there we go. All right. Well, folks, I hope you found that review useful. If you did, then, you know, take the time to do all the YouTubey stuff, show your appreciation with a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already subscribed and all that good stuff. All that remains to say is that I hope you have yourselves a great day. Hope yourselves have a great week and swing back around for another video sometime soon. All right. Take it easy, folks. See you again.